and Norway, of course, is a very interesting country because they're like crack dealers who are vegan.
Yeah.
Very interesting. They sell a lot of fossil fuel.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But on the other hand, inside the country, they use very little, and they're very focused on using less and less.
Hello and welcome to the EnergySpark Podcast, where we aim to inspire and inform in all ways related to energy transition. My name is Gijs.
And my name is Jim.
And today we are joined by Auke Hoekstra.
Thank you very much for joining me.
Welcome, hi. Auke is known as the EV guy in the Netherlands. He authored his first book on electrical vehicles in 2009 and is currently program director of NEON, a research program where 34 PhD candidates are under his supervision. He's also the founder of Zemo Simulations and known as the debunker-in-chief on X, formerly known as Twitter, debunking various myths related to the energy transition. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and everything's correct. So yes,
Great.
that's me.
Good start. That's great.
Yeah.
I wanted to start with asking a question about the NEON research program. So you're as a program director, you're overseeing 34 PhD candidates.
I thought it was 38 even, but maybe maybe some dropouts could now be 34.
Okay.
Yes.
Then the title page needs to be updated.
Oh.
I was wondering, as a program director, you're overseeing all these different PhD candidates in different disciplines focusing on the energy transition, for example, technological, but also societal and financial. How did you roll into this, and how do you manage things as a program director?
Well, these are two very different things. I rolled into this because I saw basically a call from MBO who asked for a very interdisciplinary research touching upon the energy transition, but also climate change. It's very, very broad. And I thought, this seems super relevant and super interesting to me. Why not try to ask a lot of people I know if we can do this together? I had a vision how this could fit together. And basically, Maarten Steinboeg, my friend Maarten Steinboeg, is officially the guy responsible towards MWO, and he, together with two other professors, sold it also very well. And here we are. So that's how I sort of rolled into it. I thought it was a good idea, and it worked. I can tell you, it's a lot of work, by the way. It cost me about half a year full time. So over a year, I think I was busy half of the time or something with this call. And I had actually the first employee in Zenmo also spent half his time on this.
Yeah.
So it's very took much more effort than I thought. But anyway, it worked. And managing this, I'll be very honest, it's very hard because all these PhD students, they listen very carefully to the people who are going to give them their PhD. And they listen a little bit to the guy who sort of created the position in a way, but also part. So I must say it was much harder than I thought to really bring them together. And currently we're making a MOOC, so that's basically a massive online open course, basically e-learning, you could also say, right? Course. And there I'm going to showcase as many of them as possible and sort of show the world what I did.
Okay.
Because really integrating them fully, as I hoped to do from the beginning, although seasoned veterans told me never going to work. But I thought, come on, this is important and we will make it work. It is very hard. So I learned a lot about how not to do it. But still, in the beginning, in COVID period, very hard, but also shortly after that, we did as much as we could on Fridays, for example, together. And at least a lot of them say we really bonded with other PhD students because of that. And there's at least, there's a lot of interdisciplinary publication that wouldn't have happened in a more, a program that was more, less interdisciplinary. But next time I would do it, I would really write the interdisciplinary stuff directly into the PhD thesis requirement before we started.
Okay.
Because otherwise every professor, every faculty is going to go their own their own way.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know that Willem was our last guest, and he's of course part of the program. He was
Yes.
very excited about it. Part of the
Yes.
reason why you're here. So
That's very nice to hear. Willem is doing really nice things. Yeah.
yeah, we agree.
Yeah. And also, I must be honest, although I'm sometimes a little bit disappointed in I had higher expectations, basically, of myself and of the program. But we were chosen for the Huygens Prize. One of the 6 candidates, one of finalists for the Huygens Prize last year.
Okay.
So there's some sort of recognition. The rector Magniscus has to say, well, this is one of our 2 interesting programs that I want to... So now I'm thinking, okay... Basically, what I'm could tell all the listeners and you guys, it is a really hard slog to sort of make people see this new world. It often takes years and years and years before everybody, all the people who could contribute together really come together. It takes more time than you want.
Of course. Does that also tie in together with what you said, that if you would do it again, that you would write it into the PhD requirements?
Yes.
Because right now what you're seeing is that there's still quite some isolation going on there, if I understand correctly.
Absolutely. And next time I would make that more or less, I would try to make that more or less impossible. But that's really, really hard to do, because you really have to, basically, as Einstein always says, it's called research for a reason. So you basically go in and you have to search for basically what you're going to search. You don't know yet what you're going to research. But I would say next time take a little bit more time to delve, to specify the research question a little bit further, so that it's harder to drift apart.
Okay.
Because there's very strong forces in science. Basically, science is super good at going super deep on a super specialized topic.
Yeah.
And then you get a PhD thesis that knows everything about that super specific niche topic.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to make scientists go broader.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, that's... no, I definitely I can feel that. That also that right now in the master that I'm doing, sustainable energy technology, I feel like they're actually doing quite a good job with covering a bit of a broader perspective, which I feel like is usually quite unique, because in the master you usually go more specialized, and here you actually also broaden. Like you see, various perspectives on the whole energy transition.
I work with a lot of people, and also have employees from sustainable energy technology, and I think it's a remarkable study in the sense that it takes on so many perspectives. I think also because the energy transition is simply such a huge thing, and has been for quite some time, and people know it will be for quite some time. So then it also becomes interesting to basically build a study around it. Because this study, I also know Cornelis Blok. He's one of the people who started something, I would say, similar in Utrecht.
Oh, okay.
I think one of the first who tried to basically bring all the different disciplines, or at least a lot of disciplines together that were sort of relevant for the energy transition. But that really takes time and a lot of effort. So you're doing a great study, by the way. I honestly think this is one of the most interesting studies to do at the moment.
Thank you. Yeah, I also very, very much enjoy it. Great. I've never had like such, natural energy for learning something before.
And I think, by the way, that's one of the this is one of the reasons that I think people like you are really making a change for the better. The sort of intrinsic motivation that is part of this whole... A lot of people see that this energy transition really is important, And there really are solutions, and I often think there's this story of Steve Jobs, and it was in the beginning of Apple, and he was going to get a lot of money, but they wanted to have a serious, somewhat older guy in charge, right? He was still young, and they thought, well, some guy with a little bit more gray hair, a little more experience, he should sort of take care of the money. So he went looking, and he found that he really liked the vice president of Pepsi.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Pepsi Cola. And this guy, Pepsi Cola, said, yeah, you're nice and everything, but come on, you're going to get something that's like 1% of what Pepsi is already doing. So why the hell would I switch from this, where I'm vice president and about to become the CEO, to your little company? And he said, well, it's up to you, but do you want to spend the rest of your life selling sugar water, or do you want to change the world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that sort of thinking is very applicable when you look at the energy transition.
Uh-huh.
Now, do you want to just make money in something boring? That's quite probably going to be a bullshit job, or do you want to change the world for the better? And there's really, honestly, I mean, that's the reason I'm working this.
Yeah.
A huge opportunity to be and get a nice salary and everything, but also change the world for the better.
Of course.
Because we saw in quite a few of your blog posts, for example, there's you took a sabbatical in I think 2009. Is that kind of like the point where you had like a realization, like this is where I want to go? Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, sabbatical was 2007, 2008, and then I wrote a book. So about right, yeah, exactly.
Okay, great.
And I was basically doing internet-related stuff for telecom companies, and basically as a ZZP'er, self-employed person, paid really well, overtime everything paid very well. But after I did my last project at KPN, which was called All IP, we basically removed the last vestiges of the analog technology and switched everything to the TCP/IP protocol. I was like, okay, this is getting boring. We're done. I was the guy who was always saying, 20 years before that, look, internet is going to be this great new thing. And it was so completely obvious by now that I thought I should do something else with my life. So I took a sabbatical, basically a luxury midlife crisis, you could say, like, what am I going to do now? And I always thought energy, actually, I was brought up with the idea that we needed fossil fuels. They were running out. That was a problem. And next topic.
Yeah, now what?
Yeah, and nobody had any now what, basically. There were no, at least in my classroom, they had this candle, this image, was a globe in the form of a candle, and it was slowly burning. And that was because fossil fuels were being burned, and yeah, the earth was heating up, but in this time, mostly we were getting more and more dependent on, for example, fossil oil states, etc. It was also the time of the oil-less Sundays, the driverless Sundays, etc. And there was no solution. I thought, this is important, but I turned away in disgust. And during this sabbatical, somebody asked me, hey, you're smart, can you look at Commissie Terlouw? Doesn't matter, a commission with a lot of great people, and he thought you could have good ideas, and you don't work anyway, you have a sabbatical. So I looked into it, I thought, my God, these are the same kind of learning curves that I've seen in internet. I've saw that for PCs. I've seen that in first TCP/IP, then World Wide Web, actually two different waves, then mobile phones, and then smartphones. Also, mobile phones, smartphones, big transition. Nokia missed out, and Apple, for example. So these are all transitions that I really consciously sort of experienced, and I thought this is similar, and I found a lot of studies that basically also said this is similar, but there were so few compared to all the other stuff that I thought, hey, here I can make a difference, and that's when it started. And
that's you going into EVs particularly?
No, well, actually, I was always interested in the energy transition in a broad sense. But I thought, okay, how am I going to start with this? Because I have a sabbatical now.
Mm-hmm.
And now I want into this new world. How the hell do I do that?
Yeah.
Just saying, hello, I'm energy expert now, is probably not going to work. So I had this very simple idea. If I write a book, maybe people will believe I know something about it.
Okay.
Maybe I get asked
Oh,
to do talks or something based on a book.
Yeah.
And then maybe I can sort of get into this world. I don't know. That was the whole plan, basically.
Yeah.
And also writing a book is a great way to sort of make sure that you understand everything. Because I had a teacher who always said to me, I love that, he said, listening to me, you learn something. But you know, where you learn most, when you explain things to other people.
Yeah.
So thank you very much,
Yeah.
boys and girls, because today I'm going to learn most.
Yeah.
But still, I'm going to make you learn also something. So I thought writing a book, then I'll probably learn also a lot of stuff. And it seems like fun. And hey, at least I've written the book. When I go back to my old, whatever it is I'm going to do after this, maybe telecom again. Because who knows, if this is going to work.
Yeah.
But at least I thought, let's take a sort of a sexy subject that not everybody has written about. And electric vehicles, I mean, cars are sexy. Sexier than solar panels, I think, according to most people.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And they were at that moment sort of still very much, not a lot of people believed that they were the future. And for me, it was utterly obvious they were the future. Yeah, utterly obvious. If you just take those learning curves and just, I mean, something that uses 4 times less energy. And the only thing standing in its way is a battery that has basically, if you look at the material cost, doesn't need to be very expensive. We know, for example, lead acid batteries that are now about 20 to 30% more expensive than their components, basically. If you buy the raw material, lead acid battery, it depends on how you buy it, but not that much more expensive. So for me, it was super, super clear that the batteries were going to be very inexpensive over time, at least compared to what they were now, and certainly compared to what gasoline basically costs you more than electricity in any assumption, any scenario I could sort of dream up. So I thought, this is clearly the future. I don't know exactly how fast, but this is clearly the future. So let's write on that. And then Rijkswaterstaat, the Ministry of Air and Roads and Waterways. I don't know how you translate it.
Irrigation
infrastructure,
like that.
Ministry of Infrastructure, whatever. Yeah. They said, can we publish this book because we're looking for someone who writes on this? And I said, well, that is great because first of all, I get a little bit of pay, which is nice. But more importantly, I get your stamp of approval. This is not a lone lunatic who did something during his sabbatical, but don't look at him. This is sort of official now.
Yeah.
And then I did talks everywhere, and after a while, I had done a lot of talk for Agenda, for Marjan Minnesma.
Okay.
And I said at a certain moment, Marjan, I've done 5 talks for you now, all free, because you're very good. You do good work, but you have to go on a lunch with me and have to tell me how do I get paid for doing real work in this new field. Mm-hmm. And then we went to lunch and he said, how about you work for me?
Okay.
And that's how I basically started in this new world.
Yeah. And just for reference, I pulled a fun fact about electrical vehicle numbers just to showcase how early you were. In 2009, the global stock, from what I could find of registered electric vehicles cumulative, so all years prior and that year, was 5,890. That's about the same as 1 week in 2024 in the Netherlands alone. So that's crazy. And I think it's 250,000 new registrations per week in 2023 globally. So just to say...
but I never... It was still utterly obvious.
Yeah.
It's just like when I had my first computer, ZX81, was in 1981.
Yeah.
It was so completely obvious that this was so much better than a typewriter. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot had to change before it was actually used. The one I could buy was, these are very small things with very bad keyboards, everything. But yeah, and also if you looked at, for example, Moore's Law, actually has been doing its stuff since long before the chip, if you look back.
Okay.
So even if you sort of look at computing power per euro, also per watt, by the way, but also per euro, you see that you basically have you can fit a trend that fits pretty nicely, that goes back, I think, till 1930 or something, 1920.
Wow.
So long before you had real computers and long before you had chips. So some trends, that's one of my main things. Some trends are really, we don't understand them fully, but we can see that they're very dependable. And for me at the moment, one of the most important trends is batteries. I think batteries, I know batteries is even clearer than, the trend there is even clearer than with solar panels. And you know, solar panels has this, you have Swanson's law, you have Moore's law, which is for ICs basically, and which basically says a doubling of production doubling of production per unit of time will bring down the cost with a certain percentage.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's Moore's law. If you take, I forget now.
I don't know it. You said
Moore's law is regarding computer capacity, I think. On a
Yeah,
single
basically,
chip.
but this kind of learning curve,
Yeah.
you see in a lot of technologies,
Yes.
but the more precise learning curve, and I'm
You just said it.
no. It's Swanson's law is specifically
Swanson's,
for solar panels.
Okay, yes.
Just like Moore's law is specifically for chips. But Swanson's law is also an example of a more refined learning curve, where for every doubling of production, the price goes down with a certain percentage. And actually for solar panels is now 21%, I think. It used to be 20%, 21%. So every doubling of basically global solar production brings down the cost with about 21%.
Yeah.
And it has been going on for God knows how long.
Yeah.
But this trend is even clearer, very interesting, or at least for the last 13, 14 years, because we don't have more history than that for batteries. Batteries are still much earlier in the game than solar panels. But for every doubling of production, there is a reduction in price of the batteries of 28%. And that is with an R squared, so a correlation coefficient of 99%. So it's very, very, even clearer than with solar panels. So extrapolate that, and you get every house has its own battery. The whole grid is going to be buffered everywhere, and wind and solar, at least over the day, basically making sure that there's sort of an even price for them and an even value for them, and they can be useful day and night. These batteries are going to take care of it pretty cheaply.
And that's interesting to me because often the narrative is quite different. I think you have a bit more optimistic view of that than often is the narrative.
Yeah, but I compare it to electric vehicles.
Sure.
And I think this is like electric vehicles in 2012 or something.
Yeah.
So it's not as early as 2008, 2009 when I started shouting about electric vehicles. But the narrative is very strongly at the moment also in the Netherlands, at grid congestion.
Yeah.
Yes.
That more grids. I also think we need more grids. But I think those batteries, basically the average use of the grid at the moment is about 20%. Average utilization. If you include everything, including all the safeties, etc. So
Sure.
basically we could theoretically at least put 3 times more energy through those wires before everything got too hot and burned, etc., etc. But the whole grid is basically still a copper plate, as they call it. It's still very much in it. You estimate how much capacity you need in advance. You make sure there's a very thick power line that will be able to handle that amount of energy use, and then you don't look at it for another 30 years. That's basically still the idea. Invented long before computers, invented long before windmills and solar, windmills, some, but not real big ones.
Yeah.
Solar panel, etc., etc. And now we're going to get, I think, a real-time electricity grid, something that Professor Maarten Steinboeg, for example, of control technology, can sort of get his, put his teeth in and say, how do we sort of make a real-time optimization algorithm here and use all this copper or increasingly aluminum in the ground more optimally. So I think also this is a foregone conclusion.
Yes.
That batteries will also alleviate from the grid.
Yeah. At least like half of the grid investments or something that we need in total could be alleviated with at most a fifth of that cost in batteries. I'm sort of, that is my estimate right now. Could be off a little bit, but yeah.
Right. Okay, and then you've modeled according to that as well a lot, right? Especially with you have Zenmo simulations.
Yeah.
And you've argued that we can pretty much sufficiently live off wind and solar and batteries, right? And not necessarily needing nuclear or biomass fuels. Is that right?
That is completely right. I think biomass is one of the biggest mistakes we've made personally in the last decades. At least some biomass is, I think, fine. But if you look at how much competition to nature you provide with biomass, how much surface area you need per kilowatt hour, so to speak, of biomass, it's about 50 times more than with solar panels. So it is super useful because you can just keep it, keep your wood and burn it when you need it. Just like fossil fuels, it's super handy that way. Much easier to basically store it for a year or even 2 years. So for seasonal storage, biofuels are great, but 50 times more surface area. And also, you can put it in places where basically you don't compete with nature. Solar panels you can put in the desert, you can put on roofs. Basically, places where nature can't do anything are fine for solar panels and for windmills. North Sea, you should be careful with pile driving, for example. There's a lot of new ways now, like bubble curtains, making sure that the animals are driven away before you start to make so much noise that basically you deafen them. Or even better, screw in the poles. My house is on screwed poles because I have a little shed that's a monument. Doesn't matter. That's also on my property that I renovated. And that would fall apart if we did pile driving. So I paid like 10% extra or something. And then we could screw. So then you have windmills, and windmills are actually in the North Sea, once you're done pile driving, are not bad for nature at all. Yeah. There's a lot of oysters, etc., that sort of like these artificial islands, and a lot of fish and there's no fish that has a problem swimming between two windmills that are 1 kilometer apart. So I think solar and wind are the ideal way to be compatible with nature. And nuclear, I have no problem with nuclear, although I think if every failed state had 10 nuclear power plants, I could foresee some problems. I mean, the way we get... So if you really did nuclear everywhere, because that would be the logical conclusion for me then. Not just keep nuclear open here and there. Super. Yeah. Keep nuclear open before you close coal. For me, that's a clear thing. Yeah. But opening a new nuclear power plant is usually too expensive. That's the big problem. Yes. It's really much more expensive than solar, wind, plus batteries. Yeah. And I think when you have thousands or tens of thousands of basically as many as coal-fired power plants, nuclear power plants, I think there's a lot of countries, where things might be. Basically, every country has the ability to keep nuclear power plants running, has the ability to do something in terms of defense and bomb making. It's very hard to sort of to make sure they don't do that, especially if they say you can't control us anymore. We're going to do what we want. So I'm a little bit worried about that, but I'm mostly worried that it's never going to be cheaper than fossil fuels. That was at least my conclusion in 2008. Okay. Yes. And if that would have worked there, I would have gone full nuclear. But I didn't see it. And also, if you look at learning curves, etc., and if that is your sort of frame of mind, then nuclear is a very hard problem because actually it seems to be getting a little bit more expensive, actually, the more you build. Okay. Not less expensive. And small, medium reactors, etc., could be interesting, but very much a wild card.
Reactors, yes. About that I wanted to ask. So in the latest IPCC report, which I believe you reviewed with your team,
we had 5 or 6 PhD students who very enthusiastically with me took a couple of months to sort of sift through it and make remarks about it.
Yes,
Wow.
like 3,000 something pages.
Yeah, and that was just the part we looked at, work group 3.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's 3 work groups,
Yeah.
and they all have about 4,000 pages.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot of reading. And what I was wondering also, so for a previous course that I had from Helene Koning, very interesting. We went through also the various energy scenarios with various energy mixes, and still all, if not or most, if not all, still rely also very heavily on biomass as, I believe, a base load.
Yeah, and CSS,
Yeah.
BCSS.
Yeah, exactly.
Business-
In combination with CSS.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I was wondering, is that maybe because they did not catch onto the latest developments in battery? How come the viewpoint that you have is so different from what is basically seen as kind of like the global standard on like environmental progress and reviews?
Yeah, I think basically they're like 6 or 7 years, 8 years behind the curve, I would say. Especially the integrated assessment models are, I would say, behind the curve compared to the energy modelers, who I think are behind the curve compared to what you can expect with learning curves. And then you easily talk about 10 to 12 years behind the curveness, so to speak. I had this great argument, I would say, on Twitter together with Michael Liebreich. He was the ringleader, and I actually made the most posts in this discussion. Somebody found out later, and it was about RCP 8.5. Maybe you've heard of it.
RCP 8.5?
Yeah,
No.
it's a scenario that basically says that in 2100 we have 8.5 watts per square meter of extra forcing, if I say it correctly. But at least the important thing here is it's a climate change scenario that a lot of the climate modelers use, and it was kind of the, well, you cannot say business as usual scenario, but it was a scenario that was referred to most in articles published about climate change, and also used most in scenarios from the integrated assessment models, and that's what you're talking about here. And it basically expects that we use about 2 or 3 times more coal in 2100 than we do now. And first of all, nobody expects coal to be that long-lived because there's too much competition. We already see now, of course, it's easier now because now a couple of years later, but that a lot of coal is being closed worldwide.
Yes.
So coal is not really the energy source of the future anymore. When I started, Google was still on this initiative, cheaper than coal. That was sort of the dream. Well, I think the
We're
dream is more or less achieved now.
Yeah.
But also, if you saw how much coal you needed, you actually needed like 5 or 6 times more than we thought there was. So it was, if you look at it that way, a nonsense scenario. And well, now that is more or less accepted, I would say. But back then, if you look at the RCP 8 point, the hashtag coined by Michael Liebreich was RCP 8.5 is bollocks. And a lot of climate scientists were angry in the beginning, but in the end it was like, yeah, okay, you have a point. And I think it shows that the IPCC and the international integrated assessment models have become very complicated and have a sort of a single-minded focus on what could go wrong, and have very little uptake on newest technologies that could go right. And also, indeed, if you look at the prices of, for example, solar and batteries, then they predict prices in 2025, which we can now safely evaluate. That they predict a price in 2050 that were actually higher than prices we now have in 2025. So that's really those price curves are going much too slowly in those models. So I have the utmost respect for people who do that. Like at least I like him very much. Detlof van Vuren, friend. Don't call everybody friend, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like him very much.
Nice.
But for example, his information on electric vehicles, I think in his integrated assessment models, he's one of the most famous EAM builders in the world,
Okay.
and he's Dutch. But his EV assumptions are very much outdated.
Okay.
For example.
Still to this day.
Yes,
Or-
yes.
okay.
These things somehow. This is super interesting. I also did there was a recent study in Nature, which I'm going to. I have an article out now with Floor Okemade, which is going to be published every day now. It's accepted, etc., etc. Just waiting, I don't know, for someone to do something. Not in Nature, but anyway, we use a Nature article with 10,000 estimates of battery prices over the years. And they said, well, battery prices will slowly get cheaper. So, for example, electric trucks, that's what the article is about, they will really happen. And what I did is I took this database, like, thank you very much, 10,000 values, my God, that's a lot of work to capture. But I put them in time, looking when was the sort of prediction of battery price, because that was this about, prediction of battery price, when was the prediction made? And very predictably, the more recent the prediction for 2030 or 2050 or 2040 was made, the more recent they made a prediction for a fixed point in time. So we're always talking about prediction 2030, for example. But when was this prediction made? In 2010, 2020, 2023? And you see that very predictably, the predictions for 2030 get lower every year.
Okay.
And actually, that's a more... that prediction has more correlation with the data than the prediction that prices will go lower. So if you just say, well, those experts, some of them were early, some of them were late, but let's all take all these experts together, as they did in the Nature article, then we see a clear trend. They all agree batteries will become cheaper. But actually, what you see if you look at the data in more detail, they were very much wrong in 2010, and as time goes on, they're getting more optimistic about batteries.
Yeah.
And their being behind the curve is actually more clearer from the data than what they predict. So I'm really like, trust the curve, as Michael Liebreich also loves to say. He also founded Bloomberg Energy Finance.
Okay.
So that's how I know him. And of course, because we like to critique people who tell nonsense about electric vehicles, for example. Sure. On Twitter.
Debunking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
He's the one who came up with the moniker debunker-in-chief, actually.
Okay, there you go.
Ah.
So then what is he? Is he not... he's debunker in commando, or what is he?
Yeah, I would say that he's broader. He also has, by the way, a very well... a podcast a lot of people listen to.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And he speaks at a lot of conferences. I would say he's a very... influential guy, but I'm more like the number cruncher debunker.
Yes.
But for example, he was the one who found out that there's a very famous example of people telling nonsensical stories about electric vehicles that came out of England, his home base. And it turned out that it was actually published by a PR firm that was run from the same address as the head of PR of Aston Martin, but it was his wife who registered the firm. This is going to become more and more fishy as you look deeper into it. So that was really a PR stunt of gasoline companies basically trying to make electric vehicles look bad.
Yeah.
And he found that piece out. So he's very good at finding out motivations, but he's also very good at making calculations. Bloomberg Energy Finance really is a thing.
Yeah.
And he founded that. So yeah.
That is amazing. But then you looked at these prediction curves. Would you then say, can you extrapolate the offness of their predictions and then say like, but this is the actual curve, or what do you do with that data? Or what does it say?
Basically, if you extrapolate how they're going to sort of change, how they're clearly changing their mind over time, you actually come up with what I would predict was the actual price in 2030.
Yeah, exactly.
So the prediction in 2029 indeed will be more or less correct for 2030 if you extrapolate that line.
Right.
This is very noisy data because experts are all over the place when they predict battery prices. But if you look at the data and if you look at the growth and how much the price gets lower for every doubling, you don't have noise at all. Well, it's super unnoisy, so to speak.
That was.
I don't know what happened here.
I think a camera just went offline.
I think so as well. Let's
So where were we?
That's a good question. Learning curves.
So maybe if I repeat it more, the interesting thing you see in these batteries predictions is that actually these experts seem to their opinion seems to evolve over time in a way that follows the actual data learning curve. And their predictions are all over the place, very noisy. And of course, there's probably some expert out there who has been right all along. but he is one among very, very many data points.
Yeah.
And if you just look at sales and just look at prices, then the data is almost rock steady. So, and then of course what you always need to do with learning curves is sort of extrapolate a while and then see, is this still believable?
Mm-hmm.
For example, when something becomes cheaper than zero, it's clear that something's not going right. Exactly. So I've done a lot of bottom-up calculations regarding what would the material cost be, for example, of batteries. I think batteries are super interesting also because not everybody's looking at them yet. Well, for example, windmills and solar panels have a very large community sort of fleshing out the evidence around them, but batteries are still very young. And you see that, for example, for iron phosphate batteries, that the material cost, I would estimate at $10 to $15 or something of material.
Mm-hmm.
And for some sodium batteries, we could go even lower than that.
Yeah.
And I think basically all hell breaks loose in positive sense on the grid when you get lower than 100 or something euros. And in China, they're now at 60 euros, about 60 euros per kilowatt hour if you have large turnkey projects.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, that is very clear. Also, that with cheap electricity, like all the other, like carbon neutral electric solutions, they follow, right? For example, you can see it in China, but also in Norway. They have well, Norway, it's because of that they almost fully rely on hydro. That there they have a lot of electric heat pumps. And a lot of almost every new sold car is an electric car, and same in China now. So that's a very, very strong point. Yes.
Yeah, and Norway, of course, is a very interesting country because they're like crack dealers who are vegan.
Yeah,
very interesting. They sell a lot of fossil fuel.
Yeah.
Yes.
But on the other hand, inside the country, they use very, very little, and they're very focused on using less and less and less. And to be honest, they have, I think, a point because fossil fuels. So this whole debate about keeping it in the ground versus not using it. It's also with drugs, right? Do you look at people who use it and do you try to remove that usage?
Yeah.
Or do you try to find all the fields where they grow, I don't know, pot or whatever, and do you attack those? I think the Norwegians are very clear on that. Just look at the use, and better to buy it from us than from Russia. So, hey, we're good.
Yes, it's, also with the last, what is it, the energy summit, that they also the chair also said it's a gift from God, we need to use the oil. So but of course there's different parties in Norway. I think that was more like a right-wing guy, right? Yes.
Probably by the sounds of it.
Yeah. And but there's also left-wing, I would say, people who still say, well, not maybe it's a gift from God, we should use it, but they say, hey, better we make the money than somebody else. But let's keep the focus on still moving the world away from fossil fuels. So I don't feel like being too reproachful to them, especially since they, for example, give a very good example with hydro and with electric vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And then in general, you started as a public administrator, is that right? Or you had a master's in public administration, right?
Exactly, that last.
Okay, there you go. But now you're very much focused on technological fixes, let's say.
Yeah.
And that's often kind of two directions that people choose. And how do you see each as more, how would you rate their impact of kind of going regulation or innovation?
Yeah, I think that the big problem is that they're usually treated separately. So one of the reasons I started the NEON program is that regulators can really help new technology. So I believe in, so there's basically three things maybe that you want to change. Human behavior, because if you, for example, don't fly everywhere, you emit a lot less CO2. If you don't eat meat, you emit less CO2. So there's a lot of sort of lifestyle choices you can make. But it's very hard, actually, to make people change their lifestyle choices. Yeah. So that's one reason I'm more into new technology than into degrowth, for example, simply because I think that degrowth basically puts the emphasis mostly more on behavioral change, which I think is in our system pretty unpopular. And I'm not sure how good it will work. I'm sympathetic. I mean, I'm a non-flying electric vehicle driving vegan in an energy positive house. I really take this stuff seriously for myself. Yeah. But I think telling other people, for example, not to eat meat is probably not really helpful.
I see. So
for me, it's technology. Yeah. But this technology, you can really help it or hinder it with good regulation. And governments should be the one who say, hey, future is kind of important to us. We're basically here to make sure this society keeps it together and is going to be nice for the people who live in it, including children who live in it. That's basically what we do as a government. That's why we're here. And if we see some technologies that could really help that, and other technologies that we should really get rid of, maybe we should make a regulatory framework in such a way that we simply help the market along. And somehow the technological people and the people who think about regulation, it often seems like two completely different worlds. Also, most, I would say, how do you say juristen?
Juries?
Law.
The judges or
lawmakers.
Ah, sure.
Yeah, but the people who study law, there's no name for it, of course. Oh, awful. But anyway, anybody who studies law often is not very... most of them are not beta persons, let's put it that way. So technology is not their thing. And I know for a fact that most people who like technology know very little of regulation. Sure. So these are two and really, if you just take 80-20 rule, like if you take a little bit of regulation, a little bit of technology, you probably go further than one of them alone, but lots of it. So
it's always in tandem.
Yeah, always in tandem.
Right.
Exactly. And of course, a little bit of behavioral change also can help. So, for example, I believe that electrical vehicles are a nice example of very little behavioral change. Okay. You charge a little bit differently, but actually in usage, they're more or less the same. So it's a very easy swap from a behavioral perspective. I think cities would be much nicer if there were less cars and more shared cars and preferably smaller also shared vehicles for in-city trips. I think to live in a city that was made like that would probably be nicer. So I think that's important. But it's a harder struggle. So I'm like, let's do both things, but let's at least replace those combustion engines, SAP, you know? Yeah. And also, for example, in eating, I think if we manage to make basically meat replacements that are very environmentally clean, but also very healthy, don't contain any antibiotics, there's sort of no chance of disease, blah, blah, blah. So at a certain moment, it's like, tastes just as good, maybe even better, who knows? And no drawbacks, then people don't really have to change their behavior anymore. So basically, I've changed my behavior a little bit, I think, although, come on, like a lot, face it, it's still, I'm in a very luxurious position.
Okay.
Still. So this is still like, oh my God, I'm not flying anymore. Oh my God, I drive an electric vehicle. You know how hard that is. And my beautiful house, nobody can afford a house anymore. I have a beautiful energy positive house. Yeah, come on, stop complaining, right?
Sure, yes.
Yeah.
But it worked. I mean, it is, you did make the change, like especially veganism, for example, it's a big behavioral change.
Yeah,
But
and I still miss my meat a lot.
I have
And
we're both
cheese, oh my
vegetarian.
God.
Yes.
Yeah.
Blue cheese, oh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's why I'm vegetarian, not vegan. Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Tried.
Exactly. Also, I sometimes, if there's nothing else than stuff with and there's a beautiful cheese or something, I sin a lot,
Sure.
especially outside and not in the house. But yeah,
That makes
Yeah.
a very different.
Relatable, very relatable. Yes.
But so it's not that you say changing behavior is ineffective, it's just harder to realize on a larger scale. You
Exactly.
say technology we can just fix.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think we should do both. I mean, if you look at why do we do what we do, there's a lot of stuff we do that basically taxes the environment and also taxes ourselves a lot. Being addicted to social media, for example, smartphones,
Yeah.
obviously very bad for you. So there's a lot of stuff, behavioral change also that you could do that are actually good for you. Overeating.
Of course, yes.
So eat less is good for the environment, but it's also good for yourself.
Yes.
And eating vegan in a sensible way, so you still have to look for your B12. There's a couple of tricks.
of course,
Mhm.
yes.
It's not as automatic as a normal diet, but if you do it consciously, then it's certainly not worse for your health, probably better. So I think most behavioral changes or a lot of behavioral changes are good for you. And also what I'm finding, if I get up and I feel that I'm behaving in a way that conforms to my ideals,
Yes.
that's nice.
Yes.
That
is
in
very
itself is a reward.
true. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a very good point. That you live your ideals and also you practice what you preach. That is. Also
but it
things
feels
very
good.
important. Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
So it's not like I sacrifice a lot that way.
No. Yeah.
It's just pretty hard. I mean, I needed my sabbatical to basically get to this point, and
Yeah.
I needed to save money for the sabbatical to get to this point. And I have a wonderful wife who, for example, asked me once. She was helping me out with all kind of stuff, and I said, "Okay, you're doing so much for me." And actually, we were supposed to go eating out every week when I was still a ZZ player,
Mhm.
which because she helped me out with so many things, and often it didn't happen. And I said, "Is there anything else I can do?" And she said, "Well, always. How would you feel if I tried to cook vegan more often?" And it's like it's a gift.
Yeah.
It was hard,
Yeah.
but it's also a gift. So you also need that in your. I mean, if
Yeah.
she would be a hardcore steak lover, it would have been very hard.
Yes.
Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah. I can believe that.
So it's
have
about
to
the-
have someone by your side. I mean, you live together, obviously. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is. I can imagine that would be very hard. Yes.
The
Yeah.
right support system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to ask a bit more about modeling, and then I think we should start rounding up because we don't
Yes,
want it to be
that's true.
too
Yeah.
conflated. But we talked a little bit about behavior and finance and technology, etc. combined. If I understand correctly, you are into agent-based modeling, and you
Absolutely.
mentioned before that the models of, for example, the IPCC are behind. Then there's the energy modeling, and then there's learning curves. Is this the type of modeling you're talking about as being ahead a little bit?
Yes and no. I think that you basically can update an integrated assessment model, but just giving it the right parameters, and then it should be able to get to sort of the same outcomes that I'm predicting. And of course,
Okay.
sounds pretty arrogant, and maybe I'm wrong, but so far on many occasions, the future has basically followed the learning curves and the data. So I think I'm right, but still,
Of course.
no, you could make those models in such a way that worked. But the main problem that I used agent-based modeling is that I thought if you want to model socio-technical systems, so systems where basically both humans and machines are part of the same system, they have to work in tandem, regulation, behavior together with machines. What happens, for example, if everybody buys electric vehicles, right? And that sort of adoption behavior and also heterogeneity in adoption, like some people will buy an electric vehicle very quickly, other people slowly, basically not so much also on morals, but also often on basically income situation, etc. Some subsidies are very effective for some people and irrelevant for other people. So it's also total cost of ownership thing that's very heterogeneous, for example. So you have to be able to look at humans and machines. There should be very many different types, basically. And agents is a way to basically make your population very heterogeneous. You make one kind of, this is a person, this is a heat pump, this is an electric vehicle, this is a building, one set of code. But then you can parameterize that code very differently for example, thousands of different types of people, because there's maybe 10 criteria in which you can change them, which all have 10 settings. That gives you infinite amount of possible humans. And you sort of make a distribution of population with that sort of resembles, for example, your human population or your electric vehicle population or your battery population, whatever. Then if you really want to look at, and that's really my thing, look at decentralized local energy systems, then you really have to make sure that all these machines and people are distributed also over space in a way that makes sense. It's, for example, coupled to the electricity grid in a way that makes sense. Because otherwise, for example, you get grid congestion. Yes. This is something you only see when you have a very spatially explicit model. And then, of course, you have to have a temporally explicit model, basically have feedback loops, etc. For example, if a lot of people buy wind power, or there's a lot of, for example, batteries that want to profit from cheap wind power, that actually raises the price of wind power. So your complete market changes based on feedback loops. Markets are a very good example of things with feedback loops. And I thought, and I still think, if you want something where it matters, where everything is, basically we take a sort of a digital twin, and we try to import as much data as possible about where everything is. So it's not, well, there's a different definition of digital twin, but at least a digital twin is in the sense that if you look at the map, sort of everything that's in the real world and that's relevant to you is also visible on the map. And then all these things are going to get their behavior as agents. They can behave autonomously from each other. And then you have feedback loops. The only way I saw how to do that was through agent-based modeling. And that's why I'm so enthusiastic about it. So especially for, let's say, decentralized energy communities, and especially for wind and solar and batteries electric vehicles, I think this is a very important way to model things. But as soon as you aggregate things a little bit more, for example, say like all the batteries in the Netherlands are basically one big battery, all the windmills in the Netherlands are basically one big windmill, you can still get a pretty decent idea of how the system works. And for example, then an integrated assessment model, which does a country as basically one agent, I would say, works fine.
It works fine, but it misses things.
It misses things, but mainly it misses things, for example, because the solar prices are, well, it misses at least the local also interactions. And for example, people wanting to work together with each other and saying like, hey, you know what? I like you. I like this neighborhood. Let's do this together. This sort of human dynamics are completely absent, I think, from non-agent-based models, most of them. And it misses grid congestion, but it could still give us basically very hopeful scenarios if it inputted good learning curves for solar and wind and batteries, for example. And we haven't talked about seasonal storage, which is also a thing. So I'm very optimistic about an energy system that becomes very stable with batteries over 1 or 2 days. But we still have to think, especially in the Netherlands, where only 1% of the world is further away from the equator than the people in the Netherlands. We're very very far away. So our seasons are very extreme in sense of solar, for example. And for example, we now have a student from Ghana. That's a perfect country for solar panels. Solar year round, put a little battery next to it. House, solar panel, battery, done.
Exactly.
That's. I'll be very honest. This is one of the reasons also in Zenmo that we like this new energy system so much. We think it's very useful, and also our kind of model is very useful to us in the Netherlands. But we think the same kind of model could make much more difference to rural villages in Africa and India. And let's be honest, those people need it a little bit more than we do.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yes. That's super nice viewpoint. I wanted to go back a little bit because I still was very curious about this paper you wrote on what is it? Autonomous electric vehicles, shared autonomous electric vehicles.
Aha, yes, you read it. Great.
Yes. And so here you were also saying, that it could make a super nice or way more enjoyable city, and it could slash resource use.
Let's make one more prediction then here.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I think that autonomous driving is basically a done deal. I don't know how fast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because if you see, in recent times, most detractors are like, shit, AI is going so fast these days.
Yeah.
How are we going to why could we ever come to a time when if you have more sensors than a human being, driving would always be worse than a human being? How could... So I think this is the future.
Mm-hmm.
There's Moore's law, basically, that will make it cheaper. And then, in the end, every vehicle can basically be taxi very cheaply.
Yes. Yeah, because my specific question was, if you would look at shared autonomous electric vehicles and you put them in the system and where they're somewhat in between privately owned vehicles and let's say further better developed public transport, where do you feel like it would fit in this system? Would it completely overtake, for example, public transport, or where do you see this?
My expectation would be that long term, I don't know, to be quite honest, where trains, for example, are going, and there's also interesting conversation about electric vehicles versus high speed rail for areas where you don't have high speed rail yet, because you need a lot of infrastructure for high speed rail. You don't need a lot of infrastructure for electric vehicles, but of course, flying, hey, what is this going to go? But shorter distance, I think trains are still going to be very important, but I'm not 100% sure if those shared electric vehicles will take you also longer distances, or they will be more like 100 kilometer, let's say, distance from where you are, and not more than that. I find that, but I think buses are going to basically not
they're not going to make it.
Not going to make it, and also trams, I think, are probably unless everybody's sort of attached to them and they're running continuously, like in San Francisco or something, where they're almost part of the landscape. Everybody loves them.
Yes.
But I think in buses are mostly very hard business cases, and we have very small. The price of a bus ticket is usually subsidized like 2 or 3 times, and still also if you look at CO2 emissions, etc. Only very full buses are great, but they have to run all day to be basically acceptable for people. Yeah. So I think buses are going to be the first victim, so to speak. Unfortunately, also bikes, a lot of bikes are going to be, I think, the victim of, if you have a sort of an enclosed vehicle that you can pick up the public transit bike.
Okay.
It's basically the same thing as a AV, but you have to park it yourself, you have to bring it back yourself, and you get very wet when it's raining.
Yeah.
So for those cases when shared electric vehicles are very cheap, I'm afraid people might not opt for the, let's say, most healthy option, but might treat themselves to a shared electric vehicle. But I think the most, of course, 80% of our the space that is taken up by transportation is basically parking spaces for cars. When you share cars, you can immediately ditch 90% of that because there's much less shared cars, and also these shared cars basically can move out the way. So basically, in the place where it's interesting, you can ditch 100% of the parking spaces when you take this kind of. Then you can park more of them, I think personal vehicles will be something that some people who really like them have, like they have old-timers now,
Yes.
Yeah.
and for the rest, it's going to be shared autonomous electric vehicles. I really believe that. But I don't have a good time frame for that because I don't have any learning curves I can extrapolate yet.
Yeah, because there's no, it's not really been done yet.
Exactly.
Or,
Exactly. And also, for example, self-driving, which could be a very important sort of supporting thing for this, because if you have a shared vehicle and it drives to your door and it parks itself, it's a very different proposition than a vehicle where you have to walk towards it, which can be like 500 meters away. In the beginning, maybe even more than that, and then you have to park it somewhere and pick it up later, like a normal car. If it would behave like a taxi, that would be a much more interesting proposition. It would also get cheaper because it would get used more, a lot more. So I think, self-driving will be a very important enabler for this proposition. But I do envision cities in the future that are much healthier, much more silent, much more green, because we've fixed our temperatures. And I mean, let's face it, a city where you basically have dead zones, where you have to teach your kids and your dogs and whatever, touch the black roads, and you're dead. I mean, how crazy is that if you think about it?
Yeah, that's
why do we accept that?
Yeah.
And I think cities will be very different place to live when you get rid of all that.
Yes. Well, I think that's a beautiful message, and I hope that the future will show that will be true.
Uh,
And I think it's up to you guys, honestly, of guys that study, for example,
Not just us two. I was
not
hoping.
just
I was hoping for that.
No, but honestly, I believe that this intrinsically, we started also it up way, right, with not selling sugar water but changing the world.
Yes.
I really believe that young people who think like, hey, I could change the world and make a nice living. How cool is that?
Yeah.
They will be the ones who come up with this great solution. And nobody wants a city that is awful, that is ugly. And nobody says, my goal in life is to kill as much animals as possible, so meat replacements are impossible. Nobody's saying like CO2, more CO2, we need to burn as much. So all the stuff we're getting rid of is not stuff we like, but stuff we currently need.
Yes.
And when we find alternatives, we will change.
I think that's a beautiful final message. I think, I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was very
Thank you guys
insightful.
very much.
It was great.
Keep going, Team Energy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, is there anything you want to plug?
Yeah,
I know we should. I know we should cut it off, but
No.
You are writing a book.
Yes.
You have a great blog that is very insightful, I would say. You've written papers, so check those out.
Yeah. No, don't worry.
No worries. Okay, no pressure,
Okay.
but
Yeah, thank you very much. But
thank you very much. Okay,
no,
that's it.
thank you very much.